Hello everyone and welcome back. It is Amber here with Amber's Confessions. This week we are going to do something a little bit different. So I have been doing a lot of hauls lately, which I do really love doing, but I wanted to do something kind of different this week and have a chat about some real life stuff with you guys. If you're into that, make sure to stick around. Today we are going to talk about social anxiety, which is something that I have struggled with for a really long time, and I hear a lot of people kind of throw the phrase around and make jokes about it and little cartoons and graphics about it, which are really funny, but I feel like a lot of people sometimes don't really talk about what it looks like in real life and just how debilitating it actually can be. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my journey and the steps that I have taken to help me kind of overcome some of the anxiety that I faced before. If you're into that, make sure to stick around. If you like my videos, be sure to subscribe. Hit the thumbs up and check out some of my other videos. If you're more into the hauls, don't worry, we'll be back next week with a review, and I've got a whole bunch of other hauls from weeks past that you can go check out. Alright, so social anxiety, really, what is it? So social anxiety is basically being extremely anxious or fearful in social situations. Now that doesn't mean that just you're nervous at a party. For most people, if you don't know people at a party, you have a little bit of nerves. For people who have social anxiety, something as simple as going to the grocery store or having to order at a fast food restaurant, or even buying something out of a vending machine can be a terrifying experience that induces a panic attack. So it took me a long time to actually be able to understand and label that what I was experiencing was symptoms of social anxiety and not just everyday things that everyone else feels. I thought that everyone else felt this way too, and I couldn't figure out how these people managed to push past it and act so normal while I really struggled, caught up in my mind with all of these thoughts that basically tormented me every single day. So to kind of give you an example of what that looks like and just how difficult that can make your everyday life, something as simple as when I was at work and we had a vending machine, but it was down in a hallway. If I wanted to go and buy something because I was hungry, my first resort would always be to ask somebody else to go and get it for me. If that failed, I would sit for probably about an hour and I would count my change over and over and over to make sure I had the right amount. And then I'd have to have a contingency fund so that if something happened along the way and I dropped a nickel or a dime or a quarter, that I wouldn't have to bend down and pick it up. I could keep walking and I would have contingency change with me to be able to replace whatever the money was that I dropped. I had to plan in advance what I was going to get from the vending machine because I didn't want to be in a situation where I had to stand in front of the vending machine and deliberate what I wanted to get for myself, because then people would think I was strange for standing in front of a vending machine for so long staring at it. And then I had to practice my route over and over in my head. So what if someone came into line behind me and then I felt rushed and then I dropped my money and then I need to abort the mission? And if someone did come up behind me, then I'm going to have to maneuver around them when I'm leaving the vending machine. And so what is my best route of access to be able to get back out of this situation? So anyway, this would play in my head for hours, guys. I mean, it would take me hours to go to a vending machine to get a snack, and half the time I wouldn't even do it because I was so overwhelmed with these feelings that something was going to go wrong and I was going to make an idiot out of myself and I wouldn't be able to live it down. So that's just a vending machine. I mean, let alone trying to go to a grocery store or going out shopping or going to a store of any kind by myself or going out in a social setting where there's people that I don't know that I have to interact with. You can imagine how difficult this made my life, and I spent a lot of my time just staying in, not really talking to anyone and not really ever making meaningful connections. So in some ways, I guess it kind of ties back into YouTube. I mean, here I am talking to all of you about this, but I'm sitting here in the safety of my own home with no one actually around me listening. So parts of it still play into my life, but one of the biggest factors for me that I found in overcoming social anxiety was to slowly force myself to do these things. I was the type of person, as a lot of people who experience social anxiety are, we use other people as crutches. So people who are more extroverted and who don't experience that anxiety, we lean on them to do things for us. So if I need to make a phone call to book an appointment, that's terrifying. Like, I would write down a rehearsal on a piece of paper, and then even then I couldn't do it because I felt like if I phoned, they would know that I was reading it and they would think there was something wrong with me. So I would just ask somebody else to do it. And for a long time, my partner that I was with at the time, he would do it for me. And that, while I appreciate that relieved my anxiety, it didn't help me to overcome it because I never had to take these steps forward to do it by myself. So fast forward, when I was planning to move out here to Alberta, which I'm not originally from here, I'm from the other side of Canada. When I decided to move out here, I had to come out here first because I had a job lined up that couldn't wait. So I had to drive my car for 40 hours from one side of Canada to the other side of Canada by myself. Now, for the most part, that's fine. I mean, 40 hours in a car by myself, lots of candy, lots of music, sounds like a dream for any introvert. The problem was I had to stop along the way. I had to stop and get food. I had to stop and get hotels. I had to eat, right? But I had to be in Calgary. I didn't have any choice. So the first day that I left, the drive went really well. I actually think I almost pissed my pants when I crossed the border. I drove down through the States and then back up because it was faster to go that way because Canada is huge. So I was so nervous, guys. I was so nervous. And I was like, I can't do this. But I have to. I have a job. Like, I have no one else can do this for me. I have to go. So I stopped at the first hotel and I managed to check in and everything went fine. And I mean, like, I was like trembling, almost in tears. Like, if I could have run away, I would have run away. Like, I did not want to do this. The next morning, that hotel did continental breakfast, which for somebody with social anxiety like mine, that was my worst freaking nightmare. A group room full of strangers sitting there quietly eating their breakfast. Along comes me thinking to myself, okay, great, here we go. So for one, everyone's gonna think there's something wrong with me because I'm here by myself and I'm gonna have to sit by myself for breakfast and everyone's gonna think that I'm a loner and there's something wrong with me. And how am I going to go serve myself? Because what if something goes wrong and I haven't had time to scout this out yet to figure out where everything is? And I have to, in my mind, plan a route through all the tables, because what if someone moves their chair back suddenly and then I would have to say, excuse me, for them to move their chair out of the way? And that's unfathomable. But for me to turn around and go the other way and go around, now I look like an idiot because anyone who was just watching me saw me turn around and go the other way rather than just saying, excuse me, and going past them. Like, this was my life, guys. This was my life every single day. So it came down to, I did eat. I had, I think, like a piece of toast. I couldn't go back up for seconds because I couldn't bring myself to do it. I sat near the door, so I had a quick exit route. I was near the side, so I could walk up the side to go to get my food. I really wanted a cup of juice, but I couldn't bring myself to go up and get it because there was only one juice machine and there was generally somebody always there and I couldn't do it. But this was baby steps, right? I mean, I ate, I had checked into the hotel, I had done it. So fast forward, I did that all the nights of my trip. Slowly, I mean, it started getting easier, right? So I spent, I think, 3 nights in a hotel on my drive out here. And each night got a little bit easier to check into the hotel, and because it became more familiar to me, it was something I had already done and already kind of mapped out in my mind of how these things go and what kind of possible problems could come up. So then I get out to Calgary, and I was staying with my sister for a little while my then husband and the kids were back in Ontario, and I was by myself. I mean, my sister worked, her husband worked, I worked, and they didn't want to spend every waking minute with me. I don't know why, because clearly I'm awesome. But no, I'm kidding. I have no friends. Be my friend. Be my friend. So I was by myself and I had nothing to do. But the cool thing was I also didn't have my kids with me, and I have had my kids with me basically my whole life. I mean, guys, don't do any math here, but since I was 19, I have had kids. So I've just kind of always been mom, right? And so having that little bit of time period out here in a new province without the kids out here, I really wanted to take advantage of that. I wanted to get out and experience the province and go sightseeing and all of these things, but I had no one to do them with because I had no friends here. If I'm being honest, I still have no friends here. That's aside from the point. So the first thing that I actually did after I had moved out here is I drove myself all the way out to the mountains, which for reference is like an hour and a half drive. Gorgeous, gorgeous drive. I made it into Banff. I wanted to go up the little gondola that goes up the mountain to the sightseeing thing because I had never done it or really wanted to do it. So if you can hear my toddler singing Garbage Truck, that's just the baby monitor, so just ignore that. Yeah, so I drove all the way out to the mountains and I wanted to go up the gondola. And if you have been to Banff ever in your life or you're thinking about it, I will forewarn you, especially in the summertime, guys, it is madness out there. It is just wall-to-wall people with tourists. A lot of people from other countries that don't necessarily speak a lot of English, which can make it extremely difficult to try and get your point across if you're trying to speak, even to say like, excuse me, because there are a lot of different cultures out there that just are used to very different customs than what we are. So I went out there and I wanted to go up this stupid gondola, which costs like a fortune, guys, a fortune. And I got there and there was just people everywhere. And I probably sat in my car in the parking lot for like a good 2 hours before I built up the guts. And I was like, you know what, guys, God damn it, I drove an hour and a half to get out here. I'm going to go up this gondola. I can do this. I can do it. And I wanted to do it. And I was so consumed by anxiety, but I wanted to be able to be strong enough to overcome that more than the power that the anxiety had on me at that point. So I got in line, I bought my ticket. I probably was about this close to bawling my eyes out from like fear and panic when it came my turn to get on the little gondola car and I had to get on by myself because, again, just my mind telling me that everyone is staring at me. Everyone thinks there's something wrong with me because I'm there by myself. And really, it's all in my mind. Nobody cares, as if they have the time to give a crap what I'm doing in line going up the gondola. Like, nobody cares. So I did it. I did it. I went up the gondola. I got to the top. I walked around. I bought a little t-shirt for each of the kids to send back. And I came back down and I drove home. And I didn't deviate because my brain couldn't handle any deviation, but I did it. I made it all the way out there. I went up the thing and I went home. So that for me was a pivotal turning point, that I understood that I could desire something more than the power that the anxiety had over my life. And that has been something that has served me ever since then. When I feel fearful of something, I remind myself that I want this. I want to be a person who can talk to other people and who can live a normal life without being paranoid of what people think of me or that I'm gonna screw up. Because you know what? We all screw up and really nobody cares. I mean, as long as no one gets hurt and it wasn't intentional, guys, no one cares. So I mean, to show how far I have come from taking that first baby step of leaving my home and going across the country, which was in 2012, in 2018, I went to Mexico by myself, a foreign country, y'all, by myself. And if you checked out my London video, which you probably didn't, don't worry about it. Just don't worry about it. I went to London this year in the spring by myself. And God, it's so empowering to realize that I am capable of doing this and to go to a foreign country on my own and navigate on my own with no one to fall back on, and not be so consumed by panic that I miss out on these things, because there is so much in life that I would have already missed out on if I let this anxiety consume me. A big factor for me also in overcoming this has been my husband, who is he is an extrovert. He denies it, which is kind of actually funny to me. Like, he doesn't see it because he feels nervous too in certain situations. So he thinks that he's not an extrovert. He is. But he is one of these like funny, bubbly people who can just be friends with anyone. Like, he can talk to anyone, you guys. It doesn't matter where in the world we are, he will make friends with people. Like, we went to the Philippines a couple years ago. I do have a story about that will come in another video. And like, he had all these friends. We stayed for a couple weeks and we found a town we really loved and we stuck around. He had so many friends. He knew everyone. We had like regular restaurants that we went to and they knew who we were and we hung out with them. Like, he can make friends with anyone. So being with him actually helps complement me so much because he's so outgoing and I'm normally not. But watching him handle situations and be around people helps me, and he's kind of a buffer for me. So he won't let me use him as a crutch, but he will be a buffer. So he'll be the first to start conversation or to help pull me into a conversation and open with something to give me a lead to get started. And then I can kind of get the ball rolling from there. So I'm not at a point I can do it myself, but he kind of naturally gives that buffer for me, which is a massive help, even though he doesn't realize he's doing it probably because it just comes natural to him. So anyway, that is my chat about social anxiety. I really wanted to address this because I feel like a lot of people really don't actually discuss the dirty details of what it looks like or what some things are that you can do to help overcome it or things that have helped them. So I'm not saying that what helped me could help you, but I'm saying it's worth a shot, right? Sometimes it is literally just baby steps. Push yourself until you're right at that point of panic and then stop. You know, when I was at that hotel having breakfast, I had to eat and I brought myself to the point of eating. I didn't manage to get any juice because I couldn't handle it, and that was okay because I had still made progress. Even though my plan in my mind would have been to do all of it, and I failed at that, I still made enormous progress by pushing myself right to that brink and forcing myself to be uncomfortable. So I hope that this helps somebody out there to understand that feeling this way, it is normal for us, and we may think that it is normal, and there is nothing wrong with this by any means. There's not something wrong with you to feel this way, but if you do want to overcome it, there are little steps that you can take to help you along the way, and that so many other people actually suffer from this without you knowing or without ever talking about what it feels like. So please don't feel alone. There are many of us out there and on here who feel the same way and have struggled through this as well. So we will be back next week with more of our light-hearted. I'm going to be doing a review on some underwear, so you don't want to miss that. So hit the red button and subscribe, and we will be back next week.